Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us today for the second session of our Value Stack series, where we focus on topics that are critical for enterprises today. Think about gold. It's valuable because it can be shaped into many things: jewelry, chips for technology, art, or even reserves that strengthen economies. In the same way, data can be transformed into insights, innovation, customer experiences, and revenue streams. But just as gold attracts thieves and must be stored securely, data too is constantly under threat. And unlike gold, which you can lock in a vault, data is everywhere across your devices, clouds, and networks, making protection even more complex. Especially now, when AI is being used on both sides by attackers to get smarter and by defenders to stay ahead. Cyber attacks are striking businesses every 11 seconds. Add to this the reality that compliance mandates like PCI DSS, GDPR, HIPAA, RBI, and the UAE cyber mandate are no longer optional, they're business critical. Now, the real challenge is that organizations often address these regulations one by one, and that's expensive, reactive, and frankly, it's a bit ad hoc. So AI, cloud, and evolving threats mean this fragmented approach is not going to cut it anymore in the times to come. In this session today, our aim is to share information and also spark some questions in your mind to make you introspect about your current approach to data security and to give you practical direction on how to unify compliance, reduce risk, and turn protection into performance. I'm Upasna, CEO of Bluebricks, and with me today we have Vikram Sareen, our CTO and co-founder, sharing his knowledge on the topic.
Yeah, thanks, Anna. And I think, as the slide says, we are, AI first security and automation company, because I think every aspect of, anybody we know, and I think people are influenced by AI. So that's what Bluebricks has embarked upon. I think let's go ahead. Let's dive in. You want to cover the?
Yes, so before we dive in, just a quick housekeeping note. Today's session will run for around 20 to 25 minutes. This one's likely to just run towards 25 minutes or maybe even over because it's a huge topic, followed by 5 minutes of Q&A if time permits. Please stay engaged and feel free to drop in your questions in the chat. If you face any technical issues, just refresh or restart your browser. This session is being recorded, so you'll have access to the recording as well.
And you can always post us the questions later on. So we have been running few webinars. I think people have emailed us their questions, and so I think that's what you can do, and ask for anything more that you would like for your business.
That's right. Thank you, Vikram. So think of a bank that suffers a breach. Even if they had policies on paper for PCI DSS or RBI compliance, the moment customer data leaks, regulators step in with penalties, customers loosen their faith, and transactions slow down. So data security isn't just a technical requirement, it's the foundation for compliance, customer trust, and business continuity. And so without data security, your compliance will fail, trust will erode, and businesses would slow down and, stop. So let's look at it with some examples in the following slide. What is it and, what has happened in the past?
Sure. And thanks, Anna. I think that's very true that, trust should not erode. And I think it's every business responsibility that, they should do the best. And, in this slide, if you look at it, there are, all the big brands that have been there. Some of them have been fined. Some of them have been, kind of taken to the step where, possibly they had the access to the data which was shared across the border, or, there was not enough user consent. So those are the things one has to look at, if you look at, different things. And especially, I would say the example of Qantas, and not as per se what Qantas did, but then I think if they had a strong check and bounce when it comes to the vendor. So, and also for Omara, which is basically, kind of, it's for, immigration agents in Australia. And they had a misconfiguration and certain documents got exposed, which again, is a breach of privacy. So we as a company, have to be very, very careful, where the data is, who is getting access, what roles do they have. If there's a machine to machine, access, then how you're, or through APIs, then how you're protecting them, how long you're giving the access for, if it's for the vendors, what data they can see. So there are a lot of things, and there's a lot of solutions that are, possibly we can think of to solve the problem, which we'll kind of take a deep dive and then go, deeper into it. So money does help, right? If you have the right budget, if you're a cash rich company. But even if you have a frugal spend on IT, and especially on IT security, there is something very, very basics which you can do, but they are very cost, I would say very effective when it comes to having that right impact in terms of bringing the security into the place, especially the data security. Yeah, so that's where we have to do I need to follow what everybody is doing, be a sheep, or do I need to be a lion, where I can rethink and really pick up the solutions that I want to pick up and fix the problem. And there's this dearth of, so if there's a problem, there are multiple ways to solve it. So you need to, rethink and pick up the one that suits you and your business and your process and your people. And now when we look at the compliance, again, for health, there is HIPAA, which has been there for, I think, 2 or 3 or more decades. And there is GDPR from Europe, which obviously is, globally impacting every business. So if you're a resident of, or if you're a citizen of, EU, then you have to comply with this. So if I am having a commerce portal where the people are coming from Europe, then I have to actually comply. So it's very, very strong, which is good. So I think everybody is forced to do that. Then PCI DSS. So if you're doing master Visa card, then there's a whole set of compliance around it. Again, excellent standard. It is not a law, it's a standard which is used across the industry, but very good standard to follow, because they have really taken, the perimeter security or the whole aspect very well. And recently they have revised, I think for 4.2 or 4. Version, where they have brought in even script level security, which we'll also deep dive into. And then Australian Privacy Act, it has been revised. Again, there are certain more, I would say, penalty oriented, aspect that has come in. Then India has done a great job, of bringing on their data protection. And then also Singapore. So I would say every country, every region has come out with their own, version of Data Privacy and Data Security Act, which is definitely, helping in a big way to bring the necessary, I would say, regulations or guidelines and policies and laws and rules in place, so that businesses can follow, so that we can have a better control and, not lose data left and right. So regulations or regulators, do guide us, but they do penalize us also. So it's not just like, don't do it, but, you will have a penalty around it. So what is the best thing is to align ourselves, right, for the true protection that we want to achieve and desire as a company. So if you're an SME, if you're a bank, if you're a telco, if you're a marketing company, all of you have a certain obligation, whatever compliance you're following, or the national, regulation that is being enforced on you. So it is not like, it's not for me, it doesn't apply to me. It is definitely for every business that is running. It is definitely for every user or the employee or the vendor or the agent that is part and parcel of the ecosystem that we.
That's right. And also, I know that penalty is a big part that kind of pushes organizations to really look at the guidelines carefully and regulations carefully. But it's also about having the correct foundations and systems in place. It's also about being ready for the future. And it's about operating in the most efficient way possible. So most definitely regulations are there to help us cope with the changing digital,
landscape, and which is changing very fast. Yes. I think hackers are using AI better than all of us. No emails have any typos. They're doing sophisticated attacks using AI, or agentic AI is one of their good friends also now. So I think if you have a gun, if it's with a police person or personnel, it's used for good. But if it's with a with a robber, it's used for the bad purpose, right? So every technology will have the good, the use or the abuse aspect to it. So we obviously are looking at the good aspect to it and protect, and that's where regulators are also stepping in. And I think this slide kind of brings it out because, I think in earlier webinars also we talked about, it's a two-part problem. Like you cannot just say that, okay, I'm going to have a great identity, product, and it will tell me who you are, where you're coming from, bring multi-factor, bring role access and all that, but then leave your data in clean, right? Like do nothing. Like Sana gave an example of gold. So if I have possibly a gold brick, then I will not just, have all the security, but just leave it on the dining table at my home, right? I will put it in a safe. I'll do more for that. And the same thing happens, like assuming that, there's zero trust, assuming that somebody's walked in, assuming that there's a rogue employee or an insider being put in there, or spy being put in there, then can I still have the necessary guard where my data is protected? Right, in form of whether the data is unreadable, whether data is encrypted, so all those kind of things. So in security, we talk about CIA, not the agency from US, but more from keeping it confidential, having the integrity, and making it available. Right. So these three kind of come and play the role when we talk about data security coming in, or security playing a role. So when we talk about data security, it kind of again doesn't stand alone. So you have the security, then you obviously have the privacy aspect to it, and then you also have the governance. Again, this itself could be a one long webinar that we can go through. But the idea is, when you're looking at it, look at from all the three pillars in this, which are kind of overlapping to each other. Yeah, and now that would be based on the role, that would be based on the kind of department you are, or the regulators that are forcing on you. So many things have to be looked upon when we look at this aspect, right? So auditors will come in, which will be part of governance. Privacy, obviously we need it in terms of whether it's ethically and lawfully being accessed or not, or being stored or not, or it's being shared with third parties. So many companies 5 years back, or Cambridge Analytica, which happened earlier, was that a few years back was that the data was shared out, which again is an ethical question now, or whether it was a lawful activity, right? But we are focusing more on the data security aspect over here, where we want to say that we want to protect the data, so that no hacker or unauthorized person, insider or external, can actually get access to that. Yeah, so that's the core part that we are focusing on in this pitch. And I think one of the core problem that we have found out is that we always feel, or we make assumptions that yes, cloud is inherently secure. A big question mark, right? I think most of the breaches that have happened recently are on the cloud. Then my ASP, my managed service provider, is able to, cover everything. No, they are not. So you need to look at your, possibly the contract that you've signed with them, in terms of data management, data backup, data access, multi-factor identity, all those kind of things, right? Then whether my Wi-Fi, which I'm giving out, and I'm also letting other people come in and then also, share the password with them, and the MFA that I want to enforce of them, are making me bulletproof or not, right? Many times the router itself is a problem. The router gets compromised because it's old. There is no, zoning being done. So that's where it goes in. So what these questions, kind of pop out, or statements pop out, is that let's not assume anything, right? Because they can be dangerous. So we should make decisions based on the evidence, external or internal, and then not just believe in it, but actually implement it. So it's very, very important, because this covers the most important part out of the three pillars, which is PPP, people, process, and products. We should not make any assumptions in any three of them, right? Either your process, your products, should be, having assumptions that it will get done, or they are taking care of it, right? Get it in written, do the analysis, do the assessment. Now, this slide, we will not go through it in detail, but this is a good slide to just talk about attack surface, right? If I'm a bank, I'm giving out a lot of app access to my agents, then I have customers coming in. That means as soon as I've opened the portal to an agent or merchants outside, that means I have expanded my attack surface where things can go wrong. Obviously, the more control you have, the more inner, I would say, controlled environment you have, the better it is. But that's not the real business, right? You will be sharing data, you will be sharing APIs, you'll be sharing access to the portals or mobile apps which will be coming in. But that creates this thing. So this list, we will not go into detail, but it just talks about, what are the preventive controls that you can bring in, Prevention is better than cure, right? Nobody wants to have medicines. If I can have an apple a day and keep the doctor away, then do the detective controls. Matlab, can I detect if an intrusion has happened? So there are enough tech around it which can do it. Prevention is definitely better than detecting it, because that means you are one step behind then. And then what is the response and the remedy, action that you can take around it. So we will not go into details of that, but these slides will be available, so you can go through them later on. The whole idea is that if you have applications on the cloud, or you have on-prem applications, you have a lot of Windows, Android, iOS devices, Macs that have been given to your employees, or you're connecting in, then you have to look at all those points and figure it out what needs to be done. Yeah. So this is the part and parcel of CISO, in a big organization. But if you only have a IT GM, or that level, then it's hard for them to do it. So this might be a good starting point checklist to look at it. And we have something which we'll share with you later on. So Sana, what we'll do is that for next 5 or 7 minutes, I'll take a deeper dive into the solution and the scenarios, and also certain metrics that we'll share, and then also look at the considerations that we made in here. So, okay, business blast. That's a new term we have coined in. Now, this is a very, very simple, I would say, network diagram of, you have users that are coming in, you have certain router and firewall in your office. And then you obviously have said, okay, I'll have certain applications which will run over here, and some more applications which are more, critical to be more inside. So obviously, if you're a bank, you'll have a much more elaborate, hundreds or thousands of, virtual images, cloud, on-prem running it. But in a very nutshell, this would be a architecture that any company would have. Now, where can data get stolen? Or possibly if there's a malware, it could be on the person's device. They have by mistake installed it, or there was a vulnerability of the OS that was picked up. Sometimes firewalls have exploits that get used by hackers, or possibly they have mitigated as a worm on a application server that you have, or a file server that you have, or your database is being actually accessed by an internal person, so it's shown as a virus over here, but it could be a deliberate internal action also. Insider jobs are one of the biggest threats right now, because whatever security we put in, an insider job can obviously get inside, because they are one of you, right? So they are a fox in a sheepskin. So very, very hard to do it, but there are ways to protect it. Now, the word blast. So if you have a single entry point, endpoint blast, meaning one device, something went wrong, it's kind of localized as one. But what if one of the servers, which was, under the blast, then the radius of that could be much more or much bigger, right? So whenever you're looking at, you have to look at, okay, what if things go wrong? Then what is my blast radius? Yeah, sounds like a military term, which it is, but like throwing hand grenades. But we need to know how much is the blast radius of, or what damage it could cause if something that goes bad or wrong. So these are a couple of things that can happen. Like, if you are centralizing the database, so you only keep one database and everything is over there, and then now suddenly that database is kind of accessed by a DBA who's rogue, and now you're like, oh my god. So obviously there should have been segmentation, right, based on role, if not physical. Then very broad privileges being given, lack of MFA, being playing a role, and so on and so forth. So this slide basically kind of brings you a very fundamental concept of what if things go wrong. Second is, what is my blast radius? And thirdly, what do you think can increase my blast radius? And the reverse also, what do you think can reduce my blast radius, right? So imagine if I actually had a database agent over here which was encrypting the data, I'm okay, because now my blast radius has been reduced. So we have prevented it for, things to go wrong or bad. Yeah. So we have to think of it. Security is not hard. It's just the way, we take the, or rethink it and take the informed decisions. And I personally feel that don't go after fear, generated, buying. Go more informed buying, where you actually evaluate, do I really need this solution? Not because everybody's doing it, but because my business needs it. Yeah. And that's a very, very important, part of, when you're going for, buying. So now jumping into the solution, Axiom Protect, it's a beautiful product, 9-year-old product, follows every standard that you can think of. Getting in, or I would say the next version release is Quantum Safe. So we'll talk about quantum safety, sometime else, but it will make sure that future, I would say, data encryption will be protected against quantum attack. Then it does beautiful things, including, data source security and all. Now, in a nutshell, this is what, I would say we do. And the part that we are covering today is the data security part. Which means, quantum safe data protection, masking, substitution, tokenization, reverse proxy, and all that. So we will be taking a deep dive into it. Now, why I've put this slide over here is that because imagine that if you have to build a solution where you want to bring your identity, where you want to bring your access role, single sign-on, then you also want to bring your data security, document processing, things like that. You obviously possibly are looking at silos and multiple application and multiple solutions. But with Axiom, everything is under one. So it gives you a very, very good advantage when it comes to cost, time, SLA, legal arrangement, single vendor deployment, integrations, and things like that, right? So this is where, it has been hugely successful because it's able to consolidate as a single source and become a compliance accelerator. Yeah. So going a little bit faster, but again, a strong defense in a single platform, which is with, AI-powered data security, which is encryption, masking, tokenization, redaction, and so on, to bring a really trusted shield within. And then a very, very simple example is that if you see over here, if I look at the database, which are the columns of database, they are encrypted. If I look at the browser, so this is a browser screenshot where extension is being installed and everything that you see over here is masked. So let's say email, sensitive data, HIPAA compliant data, whatever it is, it picks it up, classifies it, masks it on the fly. So the word AI powered comes by bringing the SLM, small, language models, or LLM on-prem or on cloud, whatever you would like, to complement it, to bring the intelligence before making a decision to encrypt the data or not encrypt the data, or to classify the data or mask the data. So those decisions which were previously using rules now, or regular expressions, are now kind of being, I would say, powered by AI, which is definitely doing a much better job in understanding what the document is, what the log is, and so on and so forth. So further continuing, this is your AI-powered army that you will get when you bring Axiom in. Whether you're a large company or a small company, doesn't matter. You will get a lot of beautiful modules which can do your endpoint Windows security, your browser level security, mask all the data. And then, file, like if there are files coming in on S3 as well as on your, servers, then they get actually automatically picked up, classified, and then, oh, this data needs to be, masked or encrypted, right? So it becomes like your CCTV with an actionable agents running everywhere to do, I would say, data security at its core. It's beautiful because it can run on a hybrid model. It can run with the agents that you would like. You can configure what you want to pick up, online, offline, whichever way, and it does beautiful I would say data protection at every level, and also document protection, because so many times there is documents have sensitive data which kind of get missed out. If you're out of the DLP, if you're using Microsoft or Google, if you're out of that, or other products like that. So even if the DLP is not there, these products work very well, or these modules work very well. Then just taking very quickly, some scenarios. So if you are a small, marketing company, 10 to 15 people, or if you're a HR company, 60, 70, 100 people, or larger, regional banks or international commerce, you will be looking at, what is your data at risk, how you're going to fix it, right? And then possibly what's the time to deploy. It's very fast. It's very, very quick if you look at it. And the cost meter. So many times we get, we get stopped because we feel that the solution is expensive. It should not be, right? Air is free, water is very cheap, energy is okay. So everything which is utility and should be, for masses, for grassroots level, it should be available. And that's what, we take pride in, and then obviously comply with the regulators that are coming in. So a very good use case is very simple one here, that, if I'm in marketing agency, I have a lot of customer data which is coming to me, but then that data at a browser level is masked, right? Then I don't have to worry about, any kind of breach that can happen, because there's nothing, it's useless data, right? It's masked, it's encrypted, it's got no value, right? So even some hacker somehow gets in, you're able to still, comply with what is required, then
that's really great, and also important to note that there's not just one fix for things. You have to really look at your own systems, your own individual situation, circumstance, and the solutions and processes, what you have, and then see what's the best innovative smart way to secure that, what's important. Because while I agree that securing networks and all of that has its own place, but then they're eventually trying to protect data, and so we need to put the right checks in place to also protect that at every level.
Very true. And Sana, I think we've already crossed 25-minute barrier, so I think we'll try to go a little bit faster here. Again, there's data sheet available. You can scan the QR code, and going towards the last part, I think, we always think, because from my last 25 years of experience, we always look at, okay, I will bring non-repetition separately, data backup is separate, encryption is going to be separate, masking, if I want to do, I need to use separately. I want to ask my vendors who can do it or not, right? So there's always this little, game that has to be played by CISO and CIOs, that what exactly is the best way, right? But if you unify everything as one, and you bring encryption, masking, redaction, tokenization, all these important services to protect your data, and in all the touch points that you have. So, that's the advantage that you'll get as a business, right? I think yesterday I was reading the SaaS software every year is going up by 9% to 25% every year. Now, with that, I can totally understand that, CISO and CIOs might be under so much pressure that, do I get, the IT budget, and how much do I allocate to IT security? Right? So, and on the other hand, AI is eating up the budget for, for other innovative things that the company wants to do, right? And board doesn't see it like that. So the idea over here is that, can you unify everything and bring it as one, so that your overall cost comes down, correct? And that's what I think my takeaway is, always that look at something which consolidate everything for you. Yeah. So I think one immediate action that we would like to suggest, because many times we get asked that, okay, what can I do immediately now, so I can have some sense of security, because things might be out of control. Get the browser extension. You can install it very quickly, but it immediately starts protecting the data at the agent level, at your employee level, and they can access it based on the role that they get, right? Then enable reverse proxy. Again, you don't have to change your network architecture. You just put a reverse proxy, which is a server in the middle, and that will do the data and, I would say file encryption or masking, based on how you set it up. But it's an immediate way of controlling and protecting your data without doing much of changes. A database agent, don't change any application. No need to change any application, nothing like that. You just have those data agents being installed, and they will do the encryption and decryption based on the role that you have. Again, the top 3 things that I've told you do not need any developer, do not need you to chase your suppliers or vendors or the cloud providers or managed service providers what to do, right? This is something you can do it today and get the benefit out of it. And there are some more, where you can have encryption endpoints and stuff like that, file monitoring, which you can take, and so on and so forth. So this action or actionable checklist is a beautiful starting point for any organization, large or small, to take ahead. And lastly, I think this is what we have: 45 minutes free assessment, and then we can have a free assessment for 25 devices. So if you're a small company, you want to protect your your data which is being shown to your possibly a third party or within your team, you can actually come and take that freemium that we offer to small companies at a grassroots level, and you can scan the QR code and take it ahead. Yeah, and that's about it. So I think that possibly is the last slide. Protect your data, cut compliance costs, and prove your ROI, because the smartest data security doesn't demand massive budgets. It's just the right safeguards, which is coming through, I would say AI-powered XAM Protect. Yeah. So with that, Sana, if we have got any questions, we have crossed the 30-minute mark.
Yes,
Any questions?
we're already over time,
Okay.
but I'll still ask one question.
Sure.
How would the deployment work for larger, like say for an organization with 5,000 devices, many applications and servers?
Yeah. No, so see, there is agent installation can be done manually, one-on-one. So if you have small 10, 15, devices or 20 devices, you can do that. But if it's a larger rollout, then it can be done, through what we call it a silent installation. So there's a way, Microsoft offers that. There are a couple of MDM, solutions that can do that. So we will provide the installer, to you, and then that will, kind of get rolled out silently on a Friday evening or on a Saturday morning on all the devices silently. But needless to say, this is something where you want to do the, file monitoring and, that kind of stuff. But if you say most of the apps are web-based, or within your control, the servers and all that, then you can actually do a lot of stuff, which I told you earlier, that could be non-intrusive. You don't have to change anything, and then bring all those necessary elements over there. The last thing I want to mention to you is that PCI DSS has come out with saying that you should protect yourself against scripts, which can be introduced to you, as a man in the middle. So we also have a specific module that actually watches for those scripts being added. So it's like a script watcher. And if there is any alien script getting added, then immediately we, flag it and stop that transaction. So it also not just protects the data, but also watches any rogue or alien scripts getting added within the page, and then which is trying to steal certain credential or steal certain data. Yeah. So that module is also there. Sorry, I didn't mention it earlier, but that's a great protection against any web app, web or mobile web app that you're building. Yeah. Or asking your vendors to build. Yeah. With that, thank you.
Thank you so much, everybody, for joining in, and have a great day. We'll see you for the next session. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.